What's going on? It's Jamie.
And John.
And welcome to the A-To-Z Reseller podcast. How's it going this week, John?
Hey, not bad, man. Just, staying busy, even though I'm on vacation this week, technically, from my job. I'm probably working harder than I normally do when I'm actually working my job, but that's okay. Can't complain. Exciting things are in the works. So it's been worthwhile taking the effort and moving some stuff around. We were talking about it before this. I had to move a bunch of like tables and shelves and things like that down to my booth, and that just about wrecked me. So yesterday was a more chill day, but yeah, I mean, no complaints. It's all exciting things coming up on the horizon. So
that's cool. I know, like, after my last vacation, I took a break from eBay and all that sort of stuff to some extent, but I didn't really take a break from like YouTube or social media whatsoever. This past weekend, we did just like a little like 3-day, 4-day getaway, something like that, where I didn't post anything and I didn't really film anything on the weekend. And I found getting back into it this week after giving myself like 3 days off, I had a really hard time, like even wanting to make like any content or do anything. I definitely don't feel burnout about making content and stuff like that, but just giving myself that little break. I'm like, it's kind of nice not doing this for a few days. So
yeah, I always find like that's the risk with me. Like I've got such a weird attention span. I'm either like all in on something or I just completely drop it. And it's like sometimes if I get off my routine, off my schedule of making videos or whatever, like I could look and be like, oh damn, it's been a couple of weeks I haven't put a video up. What am I doing? Like it's really easy for me. It's a slippery slope to just completely fall off of something, even when I love it. Like my other channel that was like running content and stuff. I mean, I haven't really been running, but I mean, that just went downhill really quickly. Well, same as the running though, too. It's like, I don't know. All I need is one good excuse to like not do something the one time. And then it's just really easy for me to be like, okay, I'm done that now. Move on to my next thing.
Yeah, exactly. I feel very similar for sure.
Too many hobbies and not enough day.
Yeah, that's just it. Yeah. Are things starting to pick back up for you as far as reselling goes? I know you had like a little bit of a down week. I know you're kind of ramping up to try something new as well, but is it picking up a little for you?
I mean, a little bit, volume's definitely still down, but I've made a couple of good sales. Like, I've sold like a $60 thing, a couple $30 things. Like, so the money is kind of rolling in a little bit more closer to what it was, but the volume's definitely still down. And, I'm just still trying to do my listing every day and trying to stay in favor with the algorithm at least so that doesn't desert me too, like the buyers have. But no, I mean, it's come back around a little bit, but it is what it is.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of something. So the algorithm part kind of reminds me of something here. So I don't normally get into conversations with people on posts online, but somebody was posted on like the Posh Sidekick Facebook page, and they were just kind of asking for advice and like, hey, is this really worth doing, and blah blah blah. And by no means this isn't I'm not trying to like promote Posh Sidekick any more than we already do, but I just said like, yeah, like there's a free trial, try it, and it's awesome. I'm pretty sure you'll love it. You'll make some money. And I didn't say like, here's my code, sign up for me. I just said, try it. Right. It's awesome. So they came back and said, I actually have tried it and it seems okay. And then they had some follow-up questions. So then I was like, well, like, how many listings do you have? And this is the part that I kind of wanted to like make sure that is very just, I'm open about how I think about automation anyway. They're like, well, I've got like 60 listings. I'm like, why are you even using automation is what I'm thinking. I don't think I actually said that to them. I'm just like, oh, like you should maybe build up till you get like maybe 100 to 300 listings, something like that, and then revisit it. Like you at 60 listings, you probably shouldn't be using automation. You should be understanding how the platform works, sharing yourself, trying to build your own followers. And at a point where you have your first 60 listings also are probably garbage. To be honest, you're probably not sourcing good stuff. You're taking bad pictures. And the idea that automation is going to sell that for you, it's not. I believe I think automation helps you when you're either a middle of the road, like middle tier reseller, or somebody who's all in and doing it like semi-professionally, right? Like you can't just sign up for automation and think you're going to become successful. You have to put in some work.
Yeah. I think of automation just like I think about like a new like sales manager or business development manager. Some corporation brings in this hot shot consultant and pays them a stupid amount of money to come in and tell you what you're doing wrong, and the movie Office Space. Such a good movie. But you can only bring in these experts, these extra guys, or these business development managers or whoever else. They can only come in and do so much. And so I've seen it in companies that I've worked for before, where it's like they'll bring in some corporate expert with 30 years of experience and should be able to turn things around. But if you have a poor business or poor business practices or poor product, or just you don't really have what people are looking for, or the economy's bad or whatever else, it doesn't matter who you bring in. And same with automation. Like you can't fix either poor listings or just not enough listings that it's not going to make a huge difference with automation. You got to, like you say, you got to build that up, have good items, and maybe you do. You got to have good photos, and again, maybe you do. But at 60 listings, what are the chances that someone's coming along in that limited of a closet every day? Yeah, I definitely want this. I definitely want this. I definitely want this. I've got like 1,000 listings, and I'm still only selling when things are good, usually like a few items a day. So, it is a numbers game, and obviously the automation helps, but if it adds 2%, well, that's not adding much to 60, is it?
No. And yeah, I just wanted to be clear about it because, people, especially new people to reselling who watch content like this, like mine or yours or this podcast or whatever, and they hear us talking about it, you don't need automation. You can do everything by yourself. One of my favorite things, do you remember, I don't think he makes content too much anymore, but do you remember Profit Monster, Drew? No.
I know who he is, but I don't think I was really watching reselling content like when he was still making content.
Okay. Well, he would always say like he doesn't use any automation or cross listing. He uses this program called My Hands, which are just your own hands. Right? I thought that was very clever. And I thought, yeah, you're right. Like you don't need all these things, but when you get to the point where you'd like your time back and everything's successful already, that's when automation is really going to help you out, right? Up to that point, your own hands can do all the work and you really don't need to. And I think sometimes too, like when you see people kind of like say negative things about like Poshmark and whatever, it's because they're not putting in the work. You might think you are, but it's not the same as eBay. It's just not list it and forget it. You have to be social on Poshmark.
Yeah, no, for sure. You really do. And I actually can like really hate that about it, but it is what it is. So, it's one of those things where you got to put in the time, and you got to pay to play. And, by pay, I mean, like, be on there sharing and doing all those social things. And it's annoying, but that's how it works. That's what that program does. So, if you don't like that game, don't play that game, go to eBay. But, once you got things built up, and then, so let's say you do have enough listings then, and you are selling products, and maybe you've got people, maybe you're on Poshmark and you've got 5 likes per day or something like that, people are seeing your closet and they're liking things. Well, I know for me, again, you talked about getting your time back. Like if I'm out playing softball, or I'm moving tables around to set up a booth, or I'm doing whatever else, maybe at some point sleeping or playing video games, I want the offers to go out automatically. That's really the only thing I use Posh Sidekick for. That's the only thing I really even care about with the automation. And sure, there's other features I use sometimes, but like the only thing I really care about is that I don't have to manually send out those offers, and I can save myself the time of just having that happen automatically. And then I get the email, hey, so-and-so's accepted your offer. Sweet. I didn't have to do that, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, but once you get the eyes on your closet and you've got things built up enough that that makes a difference, you know, then it's worth it for sure. But
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was interesting, and like I said, I did kind of. Hopefully I steered that person in the right direction. I felt
yeah,
a little bad about it because essentially I was saying like you're too early for automation on the Posh Sidekick page. So no, I didn't see like anybody like say anything bad about it. The person I'm sure appreciated a little bit of honesty because like when they were talking like they were like a full-blown reseller, and that's why I'm like I kind of pumped the brakes and said like what are we talking about exactly here, because
yeah,
there's a huge difference.
yeah,
um
yeah, sure.
yeah, I did run into a little bit of issue on eBay this week too, and I'm just sort of dealing with it right now. I have a return. So first of all, I'm a very poor Canadian in the fact that I do not speak French. I don't know how well you speak French, but I rely on Google Translate when somebody sends me a message in not English.
Okay. I can read French fairly well. I was pretty much bilingual by the end of high school, but that's been, you know, almost 25 years. So I haven't used it. So I've lost a lot of it. I don't recognize every word. Some of my vocabulary is gone, but I can read it pretty well. Um, and I can typically formulate a sentence well enough that they probably know what I mean, even if it's not exactly correct.
Yeah. And speaking of which, I know like maybe it's more of an East Coast thing, but I know in New Brunswick, sometimes when I'm there visiting like my parents or whatever in the summer, people will switch between English and French there. Like
Oh yeah,
they'll be like you'll be at like a hardware store, grocery store, and they'll just switch mid conversation. I'm like,
that
wow,
happens. Yeah, they're very Franglish there, and that
yeah,
happens here too because we're, you know, where I am out on the western end. You know, like this is the French Shore. You know, like a little bit west of me, but like the whole area between say like Digby and Yarmouth area. You know, that western northern shore of Nova Scotia. You know, that's where the Acadians were and stuff, and it's the whole French Shore. So sometimes when we're going shopping and we're stopping in one of these smaller communities or whatever, you know, go to a gas station or something, same deal. Someone could be in there just having a conversation and they're talking about something in French, and all of a sudden, yeah, and so anyway, and then I told Frank that blah blah blah, and then back into French. It's like, okay, I mean, pick one. I mean, I don't know. It's funny. Anyway,
yeah.
sorry, didn't mean to hijack your story.
No,
Go ahead and
no. So I think there was a bit of communication error. So their initial reply to me, they just asked for a return, which I thought was okay because you could get you could just get a return without even talking to me. So I'm just like, oh, okay. So I used Google Translate. They basically had said like, I think the hard drive in the PlayStation 3 was loose for some reason. I don't know if I shipped it like that. I honestly don't. I have no idea. I don't remember this, but they said they had to buy a clip for it so that it wasn't shaking around like the door that goes on it.
okay.
Um, and they also said that they had an issue with a controller syncing with it, where I sold it as power cord and PS3 only, no controller. So I think they had an issue with their own controller. And then from what I could tell, they also said that they thought I sold it as a 500 gig hard drive and they thought it was a 350 gig hard drive. And I tried to explain this to them. I also replied in English, so they had to use Google Translate. So there was an issue there. They did reply to me after in really bad English, but I mean, at least they could attempt it, right? Like,
Yeah.
but they had said they thought it was a 350 gig hard drive because there was only 480 gigs available on the machine. I'm like, well, part of it's the operating system. Maybe that they just don't understand that. Like
Yeah.
anytime if you buy a terabyte machine, it's not going to give you 1,000 gigs. It's going to take the operating system and any updated stuff. So essentially, they opened a return, and I wound up offering a partial refund just because the shipping was going to be like, it was sort of at a point where I'd rather just give you half your money back if you'd take it.
Hmm.
Um, but instead of saying yes, no, or whatever, they must have called eBay and asked for them to step in. So now it's just sitting in this weird limbo where I can't just accept the return and get a label. And I don't want to buy a return label from eBay. At this point, I will just return it to myself no matter what. But then I spent so much time this morning trying to get a hold of somebody at eBay to just say like, hey, I want to use my own return label. I just sort of said, I think there's a language barrier here where we're not understanding each other completely either. Like,
Yeah.
I'll just take the return. But I mean, I was just trying to figure out what the problem was, and it just wasn't clear.
Yeah. And you were offering an an option like, hey, would this be okay for you instead of a full return? And then, instead of them answering that and saying yes or no, which I'm sure you would have been fine with either way, then, they escalated it to eBay. And, so, yeah, it wasn't really necessary for them to take that step, but maybe they just didn't understand. Maybe they thought you were just like, that's my final offer. Like, well, this is what I'll do for you. I won't return it. Like, who knows?
Yeah. And the annoying part is when it becomes out of your control, then it's a ding against your seller performance too, right?
Right.
Now, like, depends on how you handle the case is maybe how it's deemed. But you can only have so many of those regardless before it actually does affect your rating. And then you wind up being not top rated anymore, which is, not a great thing for sure. So just annoying. I don't know. Like I said, I feel because I am a Canadian, I do feel like I probably should know enough French to communicate properly, but I don't. And it's always been, I can hardly speak English. You talk to me all the time. Sometimes I don't even
Yeah. No, I mean, hey, you're from farmland, Ontario. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I thought that was interesting, a little bit annoying, but that's part of what eBay is.
Hey, I got some eBay issues. So I'll ask you, have you gotten your supplies coupon yet?
No, I still haven't got mine. Nope.
Oh, okay. Neither have I. After being on the chat with them and them saying, okay, yeah, we realize Canadian sellers haven't gotten their thing, and it's escalated off. And I'm seeing here that people are getting an email with their code after about 24 hours or 48 hours after we escalated. So you'll hear something back soon. Okay, sure, sure I will. Well, that was several days ago. So I got them to call me back instead of going through the chat again and speaking to what may or may not even be a human. I had someone call me back, and I explained, like, I was told I was going to hear something back or get my coupon, code or something. And the person that I was talking to seemed completely clueless as to why a Canadian seller was even looking for a coupon code. It seems like, and I haven't read this, I haven't gone on their website to actually double check this to see whether it's true or not, but looks like there isn't even any wording on the Canadian site about getting a coupon code now when you have a store. So I'm like, well, that's really interesting. I was like, well, I've gotten one every quarter since I've become a store member. So if I'm not going to get a coupon code, if you guys have just done away with that and didn't bother to tell any of us and are trying to scrub it from history like it didn't happen, then how about just credit me a month's store subscription basically to kind of make up around the same amount of money. Okay, well, I'll just keep this escalated. I'll re-escalate this off and see what I can figure out, because I don't know how to handle this. So anyway, that's the state of the coupon code apparently. The other issue I have with them is that I think I mentioned to you, and I've seen a lot of other eBay resellers talk about it as well in YouTube videos recently, and Chris had talked about it, is about the UPS labels.
Yeah.
And I got charged full retail price for a UPS label, even though the eBay app told me it was going to be $22. It ended up being $55 that I was dinged. So that was also something that was supposed to be escalated off that I would hear something back about. So I asked them about that as well. And I was like, okay, well, how about this other thing from, June 26th or whatever it is that I still haven't heard anything back about? Oh, I can see here that was actually never escalated.
Oh.
Like, oh, right on. I was like, okay, now do you understand this issue? Like, can you read the notes here and see what my complaint is? And she's like, yeah, well, I think what happened there is they probably, went by volumetric weight or whatever. I was like, okay, now I could get behind that, and I can understand that they're like, okay, no, this package is actually too big to qualify for that discounted label price. But when I put in those actual weights and dimensions in the eBay app, and the eBay app tells me I get the discount and it's $22, then if UPS isn't going to honor it, then you guys should be. So can I get a credit for that? So I asked for like, something like $70 in total between the two things. But she's like, okay, well, since that one wasn't ever escalated off, I'll just escalate that off and see if we can get an answer for you. So anyway, apparently in another 2 to 3 business days, I'll hear back something on both of those items.
Yeah, that's annoying for sure. I have seen more and more people complaining about it too. So, I have used that before. Sometimes if I'm like in a pinch and I know I'm not gonna, for whatever reason, be able to go drop stuff off at Stallion Express, I'll look for alternate, shipping solutions. And a lot of times it's fairly reasonable to buy labels through eBay. So yeah, it makes me a little nervous though, because that's like, you obviously don't want that to happen. And if you're not paying attention, they could just slide it on there and you'd never know, right? So it's always a good look.
Yeah, and it seems to be just an issue with UPS, although it could be with FedEx as well. I've never bought a FedEx label through eBay, but it seems to be just with UPS labels where, somewhere between UPS and eBay there's a miscommunication, or someone's not honoring it, and it's eventually coming out of the seller's, margins. But so I don't know. I mean, I have used UPS labels since, and it's worked out okay. But I'm just thinking maybe on small items where it's like, okay, worst case scenario, instead of charging me the $12, they charge me the $20. Then it's not so bad. Like, I'm still keeping an eye on things. But yeah, I'm thinking I'm probably, so like I always have things set up to calculate shipping, and I use Canada Post Expedited Parcel as the basis for that. So typically the only time I'm using UPS is if there's like a clear advantage, like, the buyer has paid $24 through Canada Post, but I can ship it for $18 through UPS. Right. Technically an upgrade because it gets there quicker, so I'll do that. But if my option is like, oh, I could save $5 by going through UPS, but then I'm actually out $30 because they charge me the full retail price, I just don't think it's worth it unless, like, I'm getting that severely discounted and the worst case scenario isn't that bad, right?
Yeah, for sure. Since we're on the topic of shipping here, I went back last week. I forget what I was doing, but I think it was one morning while we were away. I just didn't have anything to do. So I went back and looked through the comments on this channel, and there was a lot of like, good job, great episode type comments, or sometimes it might have been people throwing in just their 2 cents about a topic. But we did have somebody reach out. I can't remember her name at the moment, but I remember them basically saying, wanted us to talk about thermal printers. I don't think either one of us are necessarily an expert on the subject, but the one thing I will say, regardless of what thermal printer you buy, you probably don't need to go buy, a Dymo or a Rollo. Those ones are way too much money. Like, even if you are a full-time professional, I think we both use the Mudvin. If that's even how you pronounce it, as my English is poor.
Yeah, I think it's Mudvin.
Yeah. But it's a pretty basic printer that you can get for, well, definitely less than $200, anywhere from like $150 to maybe even $100, depending on the sale.
Yeah, I got mine for $100.
Yeah. So, I would say if you're thinking about one, I would just avoid. There's no real reason to buy a super expensive one because they're going to all do the same thing, very similar thing. Just look at the reviews yourself. If you see people who say it's good, I would trust that. I would say that's a brand both me and you have used, and I really do like it. I've had the same one now for, I think I'm pushing 2 years on this one. I'd have to go back. I made like a little video, a YouTube video when I got it. I think I used it for a month and did a video just to say, hey, this is my review of this thing. It wasn't sponsored in any way.
Yeah.
And I've never had a problem with it. So, and I also didn't spend $300 or $400 on it either. So I'm pretty happy about it.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know, like maybe if if you're someone who's printing off 20 to 50 labels a day. Maybe there's some merit in wanting to get something more robust, but like for me, who's typically, I'm typically shipping maybe every other day or something like that. And, maybe it's like 10 or 15 labels or something. I don't know. Like, it varies obviously, but like, it's never working too hard. You know what I mean? Like even printing out like a couple dozen labels and like, oh, you're pushing this machine to the max by any means. But for me, getting it, like new open box is how I bought it on eBay for $100. And then I guess there would have been taxes on that. So, I mean, $115, but it can use any, like it doesn't have a proprietary label. You just buy them by the thousand on Amazon for $20 and you don't have to buy them again for, a few months or something. For me anyway. I think I've been using mine since October. And literally the only thing I had to do instead of just, it wasn't just plug and play. It wasn't just plug the USB port in and you're good. I just had to follow the very clear instructions to go to this website, download the driver. It took me all of 12 seconds. It was like the most basic thing. It's like, okay, do this, click that, boom, you're done. Well, all right. And so now I've got a printer that I literally just never have to move, never have to think about, put a new stack of labels in it every couple of months or whatever. And yeah, I mean, I can't think of any reason to use anything better than that. I guess the only advantage to having one where you could like, that has like Bluetooth or like, print from your phone kind of capability is if you didn't have a laptop or you didn't have a convenient place to do everything. Like, my email just comes up. Like I buy my labels through my phone for eBay, but then I've just got my email open on my laptop and print them off from there. And, same as like my Poshmark ones. I mean, it's just literally my Gmail is open, print my labels. So, I mean, if you, for whatever reason, didn't have a computer that you could do that and didn't want to have a computer for whatever reason, you're like, look, I really need it to be able to print from my phone. Okay, obviously there's models that cost more, so you can do that and have Bluetooth ability, but I don't need that. So this $100 printer is all I'd ever need, I think.
Yeah, me too. Mine is the same thing. I don't have Bluetooth or anything. I do know they do make a model with that.
Yeah.
I've never used it, and I'd prefer to print from my computer anyway, honestly. But
yeah. I mean, and thinking about it, like even if it did die in like 2-3 years or something, well, if it was only $100 or so and you got 2 or 3 years out of it, I'd just buy another one of those. Like that, that works for me, right? Instead of going out and buying like a $400 dymo and right.
Yeah, and I mean the way when I wasn't really sure and I thought about buying this one, I was either gonna be buying new ink for my inkjet printer. Right?
First.
Or one of these. I did also have, no, I still have it. I have got a laser jet printer, which uses just toner or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's a very good option too. It just, you have to cut the labels and stick them onto things and whatever. But
yeah, you know what though? I was doing that and I was spending $30 on a little ink thing every month.
Yeah.
And then cutting my labels and having to put them on. And I mean, so 4 months of that, and now I own my printer. You know what I mean? So like, that was annoying as hell. I mean, yeah, it's an option. I mean, if you are only selling like, if you're only selling a few things a week or something like that, it's not a big deal, obviously. Yeah. But I would say for me, the point was where it was like, okay, I could be shipping every day. Do I really want to be messing around with the scissors and having to buy ink all the time and running to Walmart every month and making sure I don't forget the ink because, oh crap, I got things to go and I'm out of ink. And
yeah. I would say the only negative thing, if there was at all, is if you were ever not going to be a reseller or need to print off labels, it doesn't do anything else for you. You can print stickers and stuff off on it if you want to buy a little round. It's exactly the same like as the labels. It just comes in a big sheet and they're round and you can set it all up. You could do all that, but really, how many times do you need to print a little round sticker of something? Yeah.
I mean, you can, if it was like price stickers or something, I mean, they'd sell those in the dollar store. So, I mean, yeah, no, that's a good point. It isn't really good for anything else, but
yeah, right. But I absolutely love this one. And I would not probably buy, I mean, if Rollo wanted to send me a free printer to try, I wouldn't say no, but I don't think I would fork out my own money. I'd be interested to see what the difference is, but I would be hard pressed to think if I had both side by side that I would probably pick the more expensive one, because I typically wouldn't pick the more expensive anything because of the name, even in real life when we're talking about anything, whether it's kitchen appliances, whatever you buy, right? Like I don't usually just go buy the top of the line one just so I can say that I have the most expensive microwave that you could possibly get. Like I don't care.
Same way, man. That's why I drive a Kia and not a Lexus.
Well, yeah.
I mean, well, I also can't afford a Lexus, but
Sure. Yeah, there's that too.
Yeah, there's that.
I seen the worst thing before we get into the sale of the week. I seen the worst thing in Niagara Falls. We were driving in the city, and this guy comes up beside us, and I'm like, "What is going on?" He had a BMW. I don't know the model. It's because most of the models are just numbers anyway.
Right.
But somebody had dumped a bucket of white paint all down his, so it was like a silver car, and somebody dumped like paint all over it. I'm like, oh my goodness. I'm like, this guy either like pissed off his girlfriend or something, or somebody's messing with him. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen that ever in person where somebody's
yeah, that's terrible. That is terrible.
I was like
you can't even easily remove, like, even if it was just like wall paint, like you can't easily remove that. Like you basically need to just sand all that down and then go get like an actual like auto paint job. So it's going to be a big undertaking, or you just drive it with the stripe. I mean,
oh yeah, it was just a big splash. It was like all up the tires and the rims on the one side. Really just the one side. Like somebody just went yeah, I was like, oh, I felt so bad for him. And I'm like, well, he must have did something to deserve it. So how bad should I feel for this guy?
Yeah, he either like, pissed off his girlfriend or his wife found out he had a girlfriend.
Yeah. For sure.
Oh my. All
right. So you must have had, I heard you say you had a couple $60 sales and a few decent things. Do you have a sale of the week?
Yeah, the one I'll talk about today was it was a lot of Tomb Raider comics from the early 2000s. So like Lara Croft, Tomb Raider. I picked these up. I forget what I paid for them, but it was like probably 6 months ago or so, and I was only into these for maybe a few dollars. And there's a couple of issues that worth a little bit more, but most of them weren't worth a ton. But yeah, I sold them for $60. I had them listed a little bit higher than that, but I just kind of let them go. I mean, it was a good amount of profit, but I also thought it was something that was kind of cool because I was always a fan of like the Tomb Raider games and stuff. In the PS1 era, playing the old Tomb Raider games, and so seeing the comics and stuff, which I didn't even know existed, and then just having a whole lot of them to sell off to somebody. But then the really cool thing was that I noticed as I was printing out the label that the person who bought it lives very close to me. Like they already paid the shipping and stuff, but had I realized it and or had the option for local pickup or something, like it would have been well worth it for them to do that. That's how close they were. So yeah, it was just kind of cool on a couple fronts.
That's pretty cool. And I don't think I've seen Tomb Raider comics, but I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I've seen just about everything made into some form of comic, but
they're pretty cool. I mean, originally when I got them, I was thinking, maybe I'll just keep this stack and have them as part of the video game related media collection or whatever. But after a while, I was like, man, my shelves are already full. I can get rid of these. So I listed them on eBay. But
yeah, so if anybody hears any extra purring, that's not coming from me, I promise. This cat is going to cry until I pick him up. So this is Blue. He's a big sucky. Yeah, I don't know. He likes to sit like in the stairwell and cry. I don't know if he just likes like the echo of like his own voice or what his problem is. But now he's just going to lay here and do nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so did you see me post I think it was just the end of last weekend that I finally sold that jet?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It hadn't been that long. That was the the jet lady video where I walked away, didn't buy the jet for $40. Posted the video on eBay on YouTube and Facebook, and that she had been following me on Facebook for a little while and invited me back to her house to like basically look at some more stuff she had for sale and then potentially sell the jet to me. I did wind up paying what she asked originally. I paid $40 for it after I kind of looked it up. Like after I went home and edited the video, I think I kind of realized like I could part this out and make money. It's whether I really wanted to. And being that she reached out and I went and looked at it, it was just like, you know what, I'll buy this for sure. Like,
yeah.
But yeah, it sold for $150.
Nice.
I hope I don't not have any issues with it. Like I think I disclosed in it that the second fighter pilot didn't have legs, which he should have. Other than that, it had all of the missiles attached to the bottom, which is very rare. Like those, each missile you could sell for like $30 to $40. That's
nice.
The bottom. I've seen people sell just the wings, just the little, the pilots can sell for good money. I just didn't want to part it out. It was I would say it was basically complete without box. I would never want to necessarily say that because you're just asking for trouble, right? You just want to explain what you have to the best of your ability for the most part. But yeah, I was very happy with that. And it really didn't take that long. I mean, that was part of this summer's garage sale series. So, it must have been a couple of months maybe now. So it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Hey, I have noticed, let's just take one quick second here. I've noticed that my phone, for whatever reason, is losing battery much quicker than expected. So I'm just going to go grab my charging cable and I'll be right back. I am a fan of iPhones, but man, the batteries on these things just seem to go so quick. It's weird.
They do. And they've made them at one time when I'd say the first 3 generations of iPhones were out. I was pretty confident about taking them apart and putting a new battery in, replacing the screens.
Right.
Now everything is built backwards. Where to get to anything you want, you've got to rip everything else apart, and it's so hard to do. I just don't even bother anymore. But
okay, we've got a little bit of a tilt, but we're mostly okay. All right, we're plugged in. Should be good to go. But yeah, that was weird. Like, I came into this with like 80% battery life, and then it just flashed that it was at 10%. I was like, how the hell did that happen?
My battery on my and we're going to get into some cell phone talk now. My battery, for whatever reason, so I've got the 14 Pro Max, this guy.
Okay.
And, I forget what a healthy battery is. Like it's got to be like, is it 89% or better? There's like a percentage that it's
something like that. It's usually like the threshold where you're still doing all right.
Yeah, mine for whatever reason has just like dropped. Now I'm like closer to 70. I have not even had the phone for like a year and a half. And then I read online that this particular launch of the iPhone was like terrible. The batteries are just notoriously do that. They just don't hold a charge, which that's the only negative thing about Apple is I think they're great products and they work well, but they try to phase their life. They shorten the lifespan of them big time, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, they know they're selling a new model next year, so that's planned obsolescence for you. I mean, they don't want you to keep your phone for more than a couple of years.
Sure. That makes sense. It's not for like I would, as far as I'm concerned, I would keep this phone for the next 3 years. I just know that probably isn't going to be the case, being that I can't get through an entire day without charging my phone now, which is kind of annoying. But
yeah, no, that's like this one here. I mean, I've got, obviously it's not a new phone at this point, but it's the new version of the SE, which I loved the SE. So it's basically, the similar to like the 8 figure, but with the SE build inside. And I mean, I like it, and it's a great phone at all.
Didn't they take like the 12 guts and throw it in the 8 body? Isn't that what they did?
Basically, yeah. Yeah, so it's basically like an iPhone 12. But I like having a smaller phone because obviously I got tiny little hands. I'm a small dude. I like to be able to do things one-handed because I'm usually like, yeah, I don't like having to use two hands to like type things out, or like, you know, if I'm in an app and I'm just kind of scrolling around doing my things, I want to be able to do it all in one hand. So it was a small phone, but I like that. But yeah, it's just weird how it's like something just happens overnight. You know, you wake up one day, your phone's great. You're like, man, I love this phone. It's awesome. The next day you're doing a podcast, you go in 80%, 40 minutes later, you're almost dead. It's like, what the hell just happened here?
Did you ever see that? I was trying to remember if it was, I think it was on SNL, where they all pull out phones and the phones keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller.
Oh yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that just your small phone thing made me think of that. Only because if it was socially acceptable, I would just walk around with like an iPad or something.
Right. Just have that strapped to your chest at all times.
Exactly.
So you can use it as your camera, but then also just like pull it up and do your thing with it. Okay, put it back as your chest mounted, like a GoPro.
Yeah, basically.
That's fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, so your Poshmark sales have been okay too, though. Like I know mine, I would say mine are so. I think anything clothing related for me still is like selling, but it's very particular clothing things like jerseys or very seasonal things like shorts and stuff like that seem to be still kind of like trickling out. But yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of so. I mean, it's been a mixed bag. Like, you know, sell a pair of Carhartts to some dude, and then some woman creates a bundle of 4 Torrid or J. Jill pieces for herself, or
Yeah.
you know. And then I did sell like a really like retro style, like very 80s color block sort of looking hand knit cardigan. You know, so like not at all like a seasonal item, something that someone's definitely getting for themselves for maybe 3 months from now. But yeah, it's just been all over the place, really. There's been no rhyme or reason to it. In fact, a lot of the seasonal stuff that I picked up, you know, earlier in the spring, like for this year, didn't sell and hasn't sold and hasn't even garnered a lot of interest, which is weird. But yet it seems like every day I'm getting new likes on winter jackets and boots and things like that. It's just, is this what people are looking for in the summer? Is Sorel winter boots and wool jackets? Because it seems really strange that no one wants to buy the summer stuff.
Yeah. Well, I do think as we get out of July and into August, especially in our area, I think it's a little different in the US when they go back to school. But you'd hope those kids or young adults with like the summer jobs are looking to spend that money going back to school. And that's, I'm really kind of hoping for that up with the clothing anyway. You know, everything else, hard goods, all those type of things seem to be okay. The clothing stuff has been slow, and that's kind of what I'm hoping for anyways. Just that particular group of people that are gearing back up for school, whether it be a high school, college student, or maybe a parent buying for their younger child. That's kind of what I'm banking on, that because people definitely at the end of summer going into fall definitely do buy clothing.
Yeah, definitely. They need those fall fashions. So, you know, not like I know anything about fashion, but I've got a closet full of clothes. So come on, people, come take a look.
Yeah, I feel the same way most days, which is funny. Like I know you've probably purposely, I know we've talked about this before, but you purposely just turned your business model into clothing because it was available to you. You could find it without much issue, right? And it was cheap, right?
Yeah.
For me, I don't even know how I fell into it because I do enjoy selling clothing, but I probably prefer to sell hard goods and electronics. And, you know, I do like sports jerseys, but the same thing, I think just because it's so available, especially when I started reselling to now, walking into a thrift store, I hardly see anything that I would even consider picking up besides clothing because they're selling it all themselves, like Goodwill for sure. It's just selling anything good they get that's going online, and they're selling it on either their own eBay store or Goodwill online. You know, and my best bet for me is to like hope it doesn't sell for them and it winds up in the Goodwill bins.
Yeah, we recently went out and did a sourcing trip here a few days ago, thinking, okay, well, this is good. You know, I'm on vacation. We'll grab some stuff, and we can also take a look. You know, maybe be a little bit less selective on things that might not sell very well because the shipping is high. Because now we can put it in the booth, right?
Yep.
So we were going out there thinking, oh, this is exciting. We can really come home with some stuff. So we went to a Value Village, a couple of other like smaller thrift stores, like an SPCA thrift store. And I mean, honestly, we came out with almost nothing because there's just nothing good in any of them. Or, in the case of Value Village, and it's easy to crap on them because they've done it to themselves, but like, maybe they're just severely overpriced. But like, even the smaller shops that would typically have just the occasional random cool thing that you can get cheap enough to flip. Like normally the small stores, when we go in there, I usually walk out with like 3 or 4 things. Maybe I've spent 10, 20 bucks, but I know I'm going to turn that into, 50 to 100, right? And the last couple of times going there, it's like, wow, I'm hard pressed to find one thing that I'd be comfortable paying what they're asking for to even try to flip for a $10 or $15 profit. Like, it's crazy. And it's not only because their prices have gone up. I think like people just aren't donating to thrift stores and charity shops and stuff like they used to, because now they're doing what everyone else is doing. They're selling it online themselves. Like, oh, I could donate this to this thrift store. Well, that's cool. Or I'll just pop it on eBay.
Yeah. I think Facebook Marketplace plays into that too, because you see people, like I even see like moms and stuff like that who will take like a whole, like maybe their kid changed from one size to the next, and they'll put like the entire wardrobe for like X amount, and you can just come pick it all up, right? Because they're done with it. And instead of donating it, maybe they get $50 for a bag full of clothing.
Yeah, exactly. 2 large garbage bags of boys 8 to 10,
Yeah.
$50. I mean, that's a great deal for anybody who needs 2 large garbage bags of 8 to 10 boys clothing.
Sure. And there's no, I mean, my kids are both in their 20s now. They're not little by any means, but I do remember when they were little, and it's like the clothing just doesn't last, right? So getting a deal on kids' clothing when they're little, it was always a good thing for sure.
Yeah, unless you're someone like me who just never grew.
There you go. Yeah,
actually, it's funny. We're recording this on the 24th, and tomorrow's my birthday. I turn 41 tomorrow. So as people are watching this on a Friday, it will have been yesterday. But every year, my my tradition is to shave my entire face, like fully just shave off. So I don't have a chin, right? Because I'm just this baby-faced looking guy. So I always have this little goatee here to give myself the illusion of a chin. And so speaking about how, I've never grown and stuff, I always like go completely barefaced on my birthday just to take a picture and be like, okay, yeah, I still got it. I still look young. And I always go into the liquor store and see if I get ID'd. And it happened last year. So we'll see if at 41 I get asked for ID. I need to go to a liquor store that, like, not my local one where they, probably a couple people recognize me by now. I'll go somewhere else where they don't I don't normally go.
Well, that's awesome. Well, happy birthday also. That reminds me, I'd watched, I think a couple of weeks ago now, Matt Cart threw a video up where he accidentally shaved his face. He said like he had a beard trimmer, which I do as well. I think most dudes have one if they've got a beard. And he said it broke, and then he wound up doing something, and he put a big gash, so he had to like shave his face. He was like clean shaving just for. He's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I look like a worm.
That's look like a worm. That's hilarious.
Yeah,
hilarious. I missed that video. I should go check that out.
Yeah, it was a pretty good one.
Yeah, no, Matt's funny. I like Matt. Yeah, I mean, it's hilarious because, again, I've got no chin. So it's funny because the guys on my softball team as well, I mean, this is what I look like to them. And so when I go in there baby-faced on Monday to our next game, they're going to be like, who the hell's this guy? Hey everybody, thanks very much for watching. So in case you missed it, I guess you'll have to go back and watch it. But we talked about how this video, it was my birthday, yesterday as you're watching this now. So as a birthday present to me, leave a comment down below. Tell us how your week's been in either reselling, or if you're a thrifter and just goes out and, likes good deals for yourself, let us know down there what you did this week, and we will see you in the next one, guys.